to get you started on your graphic design portraits that you have been doing all of the background research for. For today's lesson, I am going to use a picture of Martin Luther King, who is another change creator within the overall American community. He's one of the most notable change creators as someone who stood up for the civil rights movement and is often looked at as someone who did this peacefully. And so for this reason, because I want to pick a reference photo that really encapsulates the work of this person. So maybe it's not a straight on picture of Martin Luther King, which there are many. Here we go. So there's many pictures that are just his face, like this portrait over here on the left, and whatnot, but I really want to show the work that he did, and a huge part of the work he did was the marches. And so for this reason, I typed in marching. And then because I want my reference photos to be high quality and easy to trace, I went to the Tools section by clicking on Tools. And as you can see, new items drop down. And then I went to the Size section, which normally, if I hadn't already done it, I'd go to Tools, oh my gosh, Size, and then I did Large. And so that's going to give me a higher quality image than I would normally be able to find. So now that I have my image, and I picked a black and white and a color one, I actually went for I'm going to do the color one. Now that I have that, I'm going to open that into a Photoshop file. But first, we need to get our Photoshop set up. So this Photoshop is what many of your Photoshops will look like on the Macs. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Window, Workspace, Photography. And when I do that, it's going to open up my adjustments, make sure my layers window is there, etc. And as you can see, just for reference, there is a difference between going to design with swatches, text, character, and doing photography. If one of these works better for you, feel free to do that. But I personally would like you to be on photography. So first we're going to go to File, New. We're going to name this whatever your name is, and then the person that you're doing, so Martin Luther King. Then I want my width and my height to be 18 by 24 inches. So if I'm doing a horizontal image, as my image is, for reference, this is the image, then I'm going to want my width to be bigger than my height. And so my width is going to be 24, my height is going to be 18. Then I want my resolution to be 300. Once you've input all this information, you're going to press OK. From there, you will get a blank canvas, just like this one. So now I am going to drag and drop my reference photo in there. And the reason that we're dragging and dropping is because I now am going to arrange this in a way that will make sense for me later, and before I actually finalize doing that. So what I mean by that is that there is all this extra canvas space, and we are ultimately going to include something on all of that canvas space, but we're going to start talking about that a little bit later. And so I do want to think about the fact that at some point I'm going to have to fill in this other white space. So I'm going to want to put my reference photo in a place that will make it positive for me to do that. So if this is the spot that you're in and you are trying to put your reference photo in, what you're going to do is you're going to drag the corner if you want to enlarge it or make it smaller. You're going to hold down the Shift button, which is really important because that will make it enlarge or decrease proportionally, rather than if I let down the Shift bar, I can do this. but ultimately that's going to make your image look real funky. So for a third time, we're going to arrange this how I want it. I'm going to hold down Shift and drag out the edges, and from there I'm going to press Enter. Once I press Enter, my image will be less pixelated. So wait till you get through the pixelation part. So if I now look at the layers section of my image, I'm going to go to the layer where my picture is, and I'm going to retitle this reference photo. And the reason that you want to do this is because we are going to create a lot of layers through this project, and you want to keep track of them. So then I'm going to go to my background layer, and I'm going to double click on it and then press OK, which essentially makes this an editable layer versus it being something that I can't edit. So we are going to learn how to start digital illustrations today. And what a digital illustration is, which you have seen some PowerPoints on, is it is a vector drawing. And what that means is that it is a drawing that is created from different points to create different shapes, as I'm doing on the screen right there. So I just created some kind of square-like shape, and as you can see, my shape is now showing up on my layers side. If you remember from previous Photoshop demonstrations, the eyeball, clicking that turns the layer on and off. And where I'm dragging that layer down to is the delete button. So just to refresh all of your memories, this little trash can on the bottom right is delete. Next is create new layer. Next is grouping. It looks like a folder. And then we're not going to pay attention to the FX, the vector mask, or the adjustments panels for right now. So all you need to think about is create new layer, trash can, and grouping of folders. So how vector drawings work is you're going to use the pen tool, which is on the left toolbar, and I'm going to want to make sure I'm on pen tool. Then I'm going to want to look up to my top left corner, and where my mouse currently is, there's two options. There's the shape option and the paths option, and we want to make sure that we are in the shape option, which is this one. If you create paths, all your hard work is going to go unused, so make sure that you are working in the shapes. So from there, I'm going to start my drawing. And one thing that you need to consistently remember as you're working on your vector drawings is that they're kind of like clothes. We are going to start at the most basic layer, and we are going to add layers until we have our image. So we are going to focus on the subject of our image, which for me is Martin Luther King. For you guys, it could be whoever your change creator is. Hopefully you found a powerful reference photo that has an action within it. So you're going to find the person within that image. And then the first thing we're going to do is outline their bodies. So when using a pen tool, the first step is to click down. That creates your first point. Then, as you go to create your second point, which you're going to want to trace the outline of this person's body, so I'm going to follow the line of his head. I'm not going to go too far, because if we put the next point too far away, then our image is going to be a little sloppy. So I'm going to go to about the next curve in his head, which is here. Here I'm going to click down, but without letting go of my mouse, I am going to hold this point and drag out, which creates these two little barbells. And as you can see, because I'm really extending it now, depending on where I drag my mouse will depend how round that line is. So to create a line that follows the shape of his head, what ultimately you're going to find yourself always doing is getting the barbells to align with where you're going next. So next I'm going down here, and as you can see, for the line to be aligned with his head, my barbells are actually facing where I'm about to go next. So that's a pretty cool point. So what you just created and what this point is called an anchor point. anchor points literally act as the joints of your drawing. So a vector drawing is an image made up of different lines that are connected by dots. These dots are the anchor points, and these dots are going to control how curved or how straight your line is. It seems really complicated, but you will find that it is not so bad. So then I'm going to keep going. For my next anchor point, I did not hold it down. I'm going to actually skip over his ear for my own sanity right now and come back to that. And then I'm going to keep going down. And as you can see, I'm still pulling the barbells out. So I am not worrying about, this guy's hand. I am just trying to follow the outline of Martin Luther King as best as I can. And so all of these points are editable. So if you, I suggest you just keep going as you're doing your outline, and we'll, come back to it. But if you do make a mistake, you can press Command Z, and as you can see, that will get rid of or bring it back. That is called step backwards. So I'm going to keep going along with my anchor points, making a very rough outline, as you can see from that shoulder. And there we go. There's Martin. All right. So if I get rid of my reference photo, I can double click on this white area near my shape 1, and I'm going to first click on shape 1, and I'm going to call this outline of MLK. You can call it outline of body, whatever you want to call it. And then I can actually make it whatever color I want. We're going to get into this later. For now, I'm going to keep it white just for, again, my own sanity. And as you can see, similarly to how we're going to be continuously creating our layers in this illustration, the way that layers work in Photoshop is literally the layer that is on top of the other layers is the one that you see. So my reference photo is the photo that I'm going to see before I see the shape, and for this moment I'll make this red. So even though this is red, and if I turn my reference photo off, I can see that because my reference photo is the layer on top, it is the last thing I'm going to see. So I am going to continue drawing. And from here, I'm going to now add the outline of his suit jacket. And I want to make sure I'm on layer 0 when I start drawing so that it creates a new layer. Alright, so now I'm just going to focus on the black suit jacket. And so this is when I'm going to start thinking about, where is there space? And I'm not even doing his pants, I'm literally just doing the jacket. So this is pretty cool. I can how am I going to do this? I'm going to have to add an additional layer for this arm, I think. So I'll keep going up with his torso. And I'm going to add an arm in there later. And then do the V and V. So now I have a suit jacket, and as mentioned, I'm going to quickly go in there and add an arm, make sure that arm is curved. And ultimately those are going to be the same color, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. And so for this same idea of adding layers like clothing, this white shirt is a great example of how the layers you're about to create work. So I am going to first create an outline of the white shirt. And I am actually going to make this outline bigger than that V-neck that we see, because ultimately the suit jacket layer that I just created, shape 2, is going to be on top of shape 3. And to show you, so shape 2 is going to be black. And that's going to go on top of the red. Oh, sorry. Shape 1 is the suit jacket. And again, we're going to put that on top of the red. So now you can see, gave him a nice little figure. And then shape 3 needs to go on top of the red too. And as you can see, even though the shape is bigger than the jacket, all we can see of the white is what area we don't see of shape 1. So stay tuned. I'm going to keep drawing some different layers, and hopefully this will help you think about what layers you need to draw. Ultimately, all layers are all images are going to be different based solely on what your image is like. And so if you have a more complicated image, some of these steps are going to be a little bit different. So definitely watch as I keep, ooh, I totally just messed up there. So definitely keep watching, and we will figure out all the steps to make your photo awesome. See ya. Okay, hey folks. So I just made a ton of layers, and so one of the things I want to show you is how you can use your reference photo to get the colors right. So this shape 4 that you're currently seeing is this dude's hand. So I'm going to find his, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the white box that's next to the shape 4, and my color swatch is going to pop up. Then if I move my cursor onto my photo, you'll see a little eyedropper tool. So I'm going to move that onto his hand and try and find a color I think is kind of similar. And shape 3 is this dude's hand, so I'm going to do the same thing. I forgot some of the things I did. Oh, so then the neck is the same concept. I'm going to go under Martin Luther King's neck, trying to find the right color. His pants, I'm going to do that. I'm going to also do that to, not his white shirt, maybe his tie. Where's the suit? Yeah, the suit. And then, what was this? Oh, and then these are his hands. So same concept. So then, when I turn my reference photo off, oh, what is that? So then I need to re-layer this in a way that makes sense. So for example, my neck is going to be under the white shirt. And above the white shirt is the tie, which is why that looks the way it does. Then the pants are under the suit jacket. Ooh, and this arm is still. And then this arm is going to come to wherever the suit jacket is. And then you can see these crazy people, or these crazy hands. I didn't put too much effort into the hands, so don't think too much about it. But then for MLK's hands, I want those to go under the cuff. So let me turn that on and off. This is the right hand. And we'll fix this in a second because the suit jacket has got to go under, above the shirt, but under some of these other things, pants. So right now my layers are neck, because that extends into this area, white shirt, because that extends into this area. Ooh, and then the tie actually has to go under the suit jacket too. Looks pretty nice. And then this arm has to go under the left cuff. And there we go. We have, if we get rid of that original outline, we have a very good start. So I want you guys to at least make this much progress with your pieces, trying to get some of their clothing. And just remember that there's always going to be moments that we can come back and change some of these layers around or add some shading to make them look a little bit nicer. But this is our start. And one of the things we're definitely going to have to do is fix these hands, because what's going on? So before you leave today, make sure you save your work by going to File, Save As, and your file name should be your name _ your person's name. Then you are going to save these as a Photoshop file. You're going to save them onto the desktop of your computer, and when you are done, Kate is going to come and put your work on a hard drive just to back it up. So as you can see, here's my file. All right, guys.